Great. Well, welcome, everyone. It's so nice to have you here, and it's so nice to be here again in the unconference of 2021. I'm Cheryl Groce-Wright, and I will introduce you to our team and then introduce each other. I'm somehow missing, are we doing that in the chat?
Yeah, so
Introducing
Cheryl,
ourselves?
Becca's gonna do some prelude stuff with all
Okay,
the slides.
gotcha.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
I can go ahead and do that now. I'm going to present my screen to you all. I'm going to share screen.
And I know at this point, some of you guys have seen some of these slides, Michelle, maybe 15, 20, 30 times, but we want to make sure that we all remember and know where we are.
Yep. Sorry about that. Wait 1 second. There we go. All righty. Excuse me. There we go. All right, so just some housekeeping items. Thank you everybody so much for showing up to Soulcare for Community Builders. I'm really excited to get started. If you don't mind, yeah, just popping your name in the chat, that would be awesome. Where you are right now, maybe what time it is. And then also if you know the Native peoples or Indigenous peoples of the land that you're currently on right now, feel free to also include that in the chat as well. And actually, while you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and read our Embrace Communities Land Acknowledgement. It's based in Richmond, Virginia. So I'm going to go ahead and go off of that. Okay, so before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the Native and Indigenous peoples of the Commonwealth of Virginia that occupied the region for at least 12,000 years before European colonization. Because there were hundreds of tribes inhabiting this region, many of them with unknown names, they cannot be individually acknowledged, but they all belong to three language groups of the Algonquin, Siouan, and Iroquoian, and they were allied in the Powhatan Paramount Chiefdom. As we begin our session today, it is important that we see this acknowledgement as a starting position. Our work in community building is strengthened when we use a lens towards reconciliation, and our work is hindered when we don't consider the implications of colonialism within our communities. The United States colonial history and its ongoing struggles with reconciliation and racism are a part of our communities. Recognizing this allows us to develop more inclusive and enriching programs that support reconciliation where all peoples can benefit from our shared prosperity. Again, welcome. If you wouldn't mind, as you can, remain muted unless you're speaking, just to reduce distractions. And then also, if you are able to keep your camera on the whole time, that's awesome, unless of course you're having tech issues or something, that's completely understandable. And if you need any tech support, just reach out. We have Amanda here right now, and then once she hops off, one of the hosts, me, Cheryl, or Wendy, can help you. And then, yeah, and this session is going to be recorded. So if you don't want to be captured, again, feel free to turn your video off. There's also an ABCD ebook coming, which is really awesome. And if you want to add your own story and submit your own story to that, you can follow this link, and I can even drop it in the chat as well, so you guys have it. And then if you're having any microphone or video issue, you can go ahead and go down to your menu in the left bottom corner and open these menus, and you should be able to do some troubleshooting there. If you need any help at all, just message me in the chat and we can troubleshoot it. And again, maybe if you're having slower internet, turning off your video can help, or closing different tabs that you might have open that's using more bandwidth. That can be really helpful. And if you need live transcripts activated, please let me know and we can get that done for you. And that was everything. I will stop sharing. Oh, excuse me.
Wonderful. Gosh, that was a great introduction. And it makes sure that we all start in the same way. So that's great. I already have some folks sharing with us in the chat. Becca, you want to highlight that for us and see
Mm,
who we've got with us?
Yeah, I was going to say while I was reading that, see where some people are from right now. We've got some people, so quite a few people from Australia, New Zealand, Nova Scotia, Canada. Um, I'm in Chicago, Wendy and Cheryl in Richmond. Where else? I feel like I might be missing some other people. And yeah, so I
Oh, in
think,
the UK,
oh, there you go.
Jerry, who's in the UK. Hello.
Did
That's
I miss
great.
anybody? Oh,
We are
Botswana.
truly international.
Indeed. Yeah.
Great.
Yep, and we've got Botswana as well. So thank you, everybody.
Nice. Wonderful. Well, welcome. Just so that you know, you're going to need pen and paper in case you don't have anything right in front of you. Um, and we also want to encourage you to grab a cup of tea, a cup of coffee. If wine or other beverage is appropriate in your time zone, please do, or a mimosa, who knows. Um, we want this time to be really casual and just a cozy get together. So please just relax and feel that you're at home. Um, so my name is Cheryl Groce-Wright. I am in Richmond, Virginia, and my co-facilitators are Wendy McCaig and Becca, who's in Appomattox, Virginia, and Becca is Shear. Becca Shear
Yeah.
is
Yep.
in Chicago. So we're really, really glad to have you here. Um, we want to start off with just a sharing. Um, and if we were in person, this would have this would take a very different turn. But it's called the Icu Activity, and it's an opportunity for people to look directly into each other's eyes and truly be seen. So the question that we'd love a couple of people to share about is a time in your life where you felt completely, truly and completely seen by another person. And by being seen, completely understood, someone sort of saw and really appreciated your essence, really knew what you were all about, um, truly, truly appreciated who you are and the being that you are. Anybody have a story that you'd like to share? Jerry, take yourself off mute.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think one of the things I come across is with the other work that I do as a massage therapist and a coach. And I'm just thinking back to one of the people I was working with recently. And it was very much about connection directly and very sort of personal, but a sort of an inner connection in a sense of how we actually are listening and hearing the other person.
Yes.
Because what I try and do and need to do with the work that I do there is create the space for somebody to feel they can let go and not feel judged and to feel heard. And it's a reciprocal thing. It's a two-way process, really, I feel. And that for
Absolutely.
me is very much, the beauty of the work that I really enjoy.
Mhm. Thank you very much. That sounds like just what we're talking about. Maybe one other person want to share an experience of that sort?
I've got one that comes straight to mind for me, and
Okay.
it might be a little bit dark and depressing for the start of the session. But
Nope.
it was certainly a time I felt very seen. And it was during a period, it's probably, I don't know, about 8 years ago. And I'd been diagnosed with depression and PTSD and didn't really know what that meant. And it was actually my daughter. I had both of my daughters sitting on the bed with me, and it was for anyone who's been in that situation, you just kind of sometimes sit and stare, don't know what's going on. And my younger daughter had said, "What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong, Mum?" And my other daughter looked me in the eye, and I just knew what she meant. She was saying, I got this. It's okay, Mum. And I didn't have to say anything, and neither did she. And she just reached over to her sister and patted her on the leg, and she said, Mummy's just got a lot of demons happening. It's okay. She'll come back. And I was like, oh my God, that just made me sadder. Like, but I felt it so very intensely.
Right.
And it was like she saw straight through or something, there was no words, no anything. And I don't know. I mean, there's probably part of it or a lot of it that's to do with being related, but I think it was something more than that too.
Oh, I
It
do
was
too.
just a very deep, insightful moment. Yeah.
Mm, mm.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Great. Well, that in talking about soul care, we have found over, well, certainly the past couple of months that Wendy and I have really been working deeply in this. Um, but over time, certainly for me, when you talk about soul care, you're talking about those deeper places for people. And it just seemed it seemed to us that to start sort of imagining what those connections feel like for today would be a good thing to do. Um, so what we want to know is, and please share this in the chat, what comes to mind for you when I say soul care? It means different things to different people. We kind of want to know what's in your heads, um, having heard the term and joined us for today. So just share that in the chat. And maybe we'll call on a couple people when we see what you've said. Focusing on myself for a change. For a change, good. Beyond the body, it's my primal essence. That's great combination of words. Primal essence, absolutely. Deep connections and relations, time for quiet and reflections, holding the other and self without judgment. Good, good. Being honest with ourselves about what we need. True. The honesty, really important. Nurturing mind and body. Those are all right in there, guys. Thank you. That's great. You're right where we think and how we think about it. So with that, I think Becca's going to take a picture of our session. So
Yeah,
if
is
you
that
would,
okay with you
yeah,
guys
and
if
if you
you
would
don't want
like
to be
to be,
included? Yeah.
yeah, if you do want to be seen, please come on camera. If not, that's fine.
All right. Awesome. I'm gonna give it like a countdown of 3, okay? 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Okay, got it.
Great. Thank you all very much.
Well, this whole topic of soul care, Cheryl and I really wrestled with the word. Like we could feel it. It was that deeper stuff, but we had a really hard time kind of naming it. So I'm going to give you guys a little history about how this project came into being. And before I move forward, can you see me and hear me and see Cheryl and I having wine and whining?
Yes.
Yes. Yay. So I went through a very challenging time as a community developer. I'd been doing ABCD work for many years and just didn't feel like anything was working. Things weren't working. And my daughter was going through some mental health crisis. And all of us, I think at some point you do this work long enough, it's a really heavy, heavy, heavy thing to do. And I just kind of withdrew. I didn't tell anybody what I was going through. I felt kind of ashamed that I couldn't handle it. And I happened to bump into Cheryl and I started sharing some of what I was going through. And I discovered that she was going through something very similar, but hadn't really told anybody. And she and I started talking to another friend, and we discovered that they were going through something similar and they hadn't told anybody. And then we talked to another one, and they were going through the same thing and they hadn't talked to anybody. And I said, you know what? What would happen if all of us got together over a bottle of wine and shared what was really happening, what would happen if we did that? So we met at my house and we literally had a wine and whining party. And it was the most liberating experience because I was no longer alone. I was no longer feeling ashamed that everything wasn't hunky dory and beautiful and wonderful. And so that started Cheryl and I kind of going, wait, we're burning out. We're ready to leave the field. What if we didn't find each other? What if we didn't find a group of others that were going through this? What if is this something that you and I, Cheryl, can kind of think about? And so we actually started a Soulcare Writers Group as a group of other people doing community building who like to write. And we journeyed together through the pandemic, through the racial challenges here in the US, through a lot of crazy, and we were writing our heart. We were journaling and sharing it with each other, and it was really magical. And it took us to deeper places, which was really beautiful. So Cheryl and I started talking about doing a listening project, and we wanted to listen to community builders that were more seasoned, the ones that had actually stuck it out, the assets, the ones that had endured. And we interviewed 30 people, and this is a breakout of how many years they were engaged in community building. So this is a very, very seasoned group of professionals. And what we heard as we were talking to them, one of the first question on the survey that we used is we asked them to describe what their community building experience was. Like, how do they define what they do? Because I think that's another thing that's very difficult for all of us is if you say community development, people think you build buildings. If you say community builder, they're like, what's that? We've got folks doing this work from faith-based lens, from government lens. We don't have a way of describing ourselves as a we. And so we wanted to dive into that. And what we, for us, the way we started describing community building, that community building happens when community members come together to strengthen their community, build a community, and that a community builder facilitates that process. So anybody who's bringing people together and creating a sense of we, this connection. But when we would ask the participants this question, we got some cool answers. Connecting diverse audiences around shared values and hopes for our community, from boardrooms to community rooms. I loved that definition from Greta. And when we interviewed Sheila, she said, my job is to always be making the table bigger. I don't know what it is. I think we all like food, apparently, because the other favorite for us was from Carol when she said, it's like a potluck of relationships. When everyone adds their ingredients, dishes, talents, etc., life is so much tastier and so much richer. And I think that captures the kind of the essence of what we try to do as community builders. We're always creating these spaces of inclusivity. And then we ask people the same question we ask you guys. What do you think of when we say, what is soul care? What does that really mean for you? And I love this definition. This one, Becca actually shared with us. Becca, do you mind reading the quote you shared?
Yeah, absolutely. This is from a really awesome teacher and author. Her name is Alex L. And it says, so self-care as community care is the filling up of self so that we can pour into others and not be depleted. It's this reconnecting and realigning with the self so that we can show up intentionally.
That was beautifully stated. Then our friend Veronica said, it's doing what feeds your soul. So like I said, here in Richmond, we like to eat a lot. So everything has to do with food and tables, I think. But Tricia said something that really hit me. She said, this is not the same as discovering your purpose, calling, or mission, which is about doing for others. This is about being. And that really made me pause and really think about the difference between those kind of two very important things that we do to grow fully into who we're created to be. So we asked those questions, and as we were doing these interviews, we were really looking deeply into the eyes and heart and soul of the folks that we were meeting with. And one of my favorite definitions of soul care, way of thinking about soul care, is Howard Thurman. And how many of you guys are familiar with the sound of the genuine? It was his commencement speech to Spelman University. He used the metaphor of the sound of the genuine. And discovering the sound of the genuine in yourself is really the task for all of us. Well, he goes on in that speech and he says, it is possible for me to go down in my spirit and come up in your spirit because the sound of the genuine makes the same music. That is what this project felt like for Cheryl and I. Like, as we listened deeply, we came up, we would hear people saying the same thing. They were using different words, but it was resonating so deeply with our own experience. And then the connections between the people. I have done dozens of listening projects, and we used a very standard kind of way of doing this listening project. And I'm going to walk you through the questions and how it yielded. But in all the listening projects I've ever done, I've never seen such this harmony of what we were hearing from these community builders. So we are going to pause because before I show you what they said, we want to know what you would say to those questions. So I am going to stop sharing and turn it over to Cheryl.
You're on mute.
So we're going to, I think we were gonna split into groups if we had more than 8, and we have just over 8. So
I think we should, yeah, let's do
into
2
2
groups.
rooms. Okay, so we are gonna split into breakout rooms for this activity. And when you get in there, there's going to be a Jamboard that you're going to use to answer the questions as you go through the activity. And I think Becca's going to share that once we get into the chat, into the rooms, or share it now.
Yeah, sorry, give me 1 second. I
Okay.
I copied the name of it and not the actual Jamboard. I apologize.
Pop it into the chat, and we'd like to make sure everybody can open it before they go into breakout, so we can kind of.
Yes, and I'm going to post the questions that we're going to ask as well. And if you,
Okay.
it's helpful probably to copy them and then paste them in your chat in your small group, just to have it as a reference as well.
I'm getting a you need access locked page when I click on it.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Change
Yeah.
I can request access.
Okay, I apologize. It's my first Jamboard, so I would like to share.
Okay, I have to give credit to Dee and Michelle because I'd never heard of Jamboard till I met them. So
Yeah,
That's
okay.
true. This was the first time I used it, was with us last year.
yeah,
Okay, so can we try the next link? I think I opened it to everyone, but I want to make sure. I don't use Jamboard very often, but so thank you for bearing with me.
Not for me.
and
Does
everybody
everyone have access? Okay, I'm really so sorry. I didn't realize that it was locked. I'm so sorry.
Can everybody get to it now?
Can you try it one more time?
It opened for me.
Okay, I see people joining. Okay.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, good. Sorry about that. All right.
So, yeah, so the questions will be in the chat. Share how many years you've been engaged in community building, what has sustained and replenished you over the last year and a half. If you felt you had enough resources, you'll read them. And what current practice are you excited enough about that you would be willing to share it with other community builders? All right, so those will be in your chat, and we're going to take about, how many minutes do we want? We're a little behind. Let's do 15 minutes.
Okay, 15
That
minutes.
sound good?
I do want to encourage everybody to refresh your browser on that Jamboard because I did change it so everybody could edit. go into your small group, if you'll designate somebody to capture the information on the Jamboard so that you guys can all still see each other and everybody's not staring at the Jamboard, that makes it a little better, more interactive. And then we'll share when we come back. And Becca, why don't you and Cheryl take the 2 rooms and I'll bounce between and
Okay.
make them open.
Okay. All right, I'm going to stop recording.